Imagine a car factory where the lights are off, no workers are on the line, and yet shiny electric SUVs keep rolling out like clockwork. That's not a sci-fi set. It's the direction China's EV industry is pushing, toward dark factories where robots do the heavy lifting, the night shift, and most of the day shift too. At the same moment Western automakers are debating plant closures and trimming EV targets, China is wiring up industrial robots at a blistering pace and exporting the results. Is this a technological marvel that rewrites manufacturing, or a road to overcapacity, trade wars, and a race to the bottom? Today, we're going inside the lights out pitch, the economics behind it, and the geopolitical aftershocks that are already reshaping the car business. Let's ground the buzz in numbers. China is now a top 3 country for factory automation, measured by robot density, the number of robots per 10,000 manufacturing workers. In 2023, it hit roughly 470, leapfrogging Germany and Japan, with about 70% of all new robots globally going into Asian factories. China's installed base passed 1.7 million industrial robots, and the car industry is one of the biggest users. Translation: when you picture a modern Chinese EV plant, think weld shops crawling with orange robot arms and battery lines that look more like semiconductor fabs than old-school auto works. The dark factory label is a little theatrical. Fully lights out end-to-end production is still rare, but sections of these plants now run safely and repeatably with minimal human presence. The lights get switched on when humans enter for changeovers and maintenance, the rest is code, conveyors, and cameras. If you want a case study with a logo, start with Zeekr, Geely's premium EV brand. Its Ningbo complex has been on a media tour tear for a reason. The body shop is thick with robots, pilot programs are testing fleets of humanoid assistants for pick and place and inspection chores, and the company has raced from first car to the 500,000th in under 4 years. Corporate materials cite annual capacity that pushes into the hundreds of thousands per site, and the sales curve shows why investors pay attention. Zeekr keeps posting double-digit year-over-year delivery gains while expanding to new markets. Whether you buy the 800 cars a day influencer clips or not, the key point is simpler. Automation and tight digital control let a young brand scale fast in a segment where slow ramps usually kill newcomers. Zeekr isn't alone. Xpeng's Zhaoqing plant made headlines with 100% automated stamping and a body shop lined with ABB robots years ago. NIO's Hefei operations tout workshop automation above 90%, with the body shop effectively lights out once running. And then there's BYD, the vertical integration champion whose battery and power electronics lines are famous for blacklight style automation, feeding vehicle plants that already dominate China's sales charts and are now fanning out to Europe and Latin America. Put simply, China built the robot muscle memory to crank out EVs at scale, from cells to skateboard platforms, then wired those plants to run around the clock. If you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more people find deep dive explainers like this, and it tells me to keep tugging on threads others skip. So why dark factories and why now? 2 reasons that sound boring until they change an industry: labor and policy. First, labor. China isn't the rock bottom wage story it was 15 years ago. Manufacturing pay has climbed steadily, and the country is aging fast. Robots are the hedge: consistency, speed, and fewer shift change headaches. Second, policy. Made in China 2025 and its follow-ons are explicit about pushing advanced manufacturing and reducing reliance on Western tech. Banks and local governments grease the skids with cheap land, cheap loans, and, when needed, crisis support. The International Federation of Robotics keeps documenting the result: more robots, faster, and clustered in exactly the sectors Beijing calls strategic: chips, batteries, and new energy vehicles. Here's where the tech drama meets geopolitics. US policy now slaps a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, essentially walling off the American market. Europe followed with its own anti-subsidy investigation and extra duties, pushing effective tariffs on many Chinese EVs well north of 30%, and in some cases above 40%, to counter what Brussels calls state-distorted competition. China isn't exactly blinking, it's probing European exports in return and steering automakers to build inside tariff walls with factories in Hungary and Turkey. That's not a rumor. BYD and CATL have concrete camera-ready projects underway. The net effect is predictable. If export doors start to close, China will try to ship more to the doors that stay open and build behind the walls where they don't. Welcome to the next phase of the EV trade war. Now let's talk about the overcapacity word you keep hearing from finance ministers. It's not just politics. China's automakers added so much plant capacity during the boom that many can't run full. Profit margins for the industry have thinned, and a brutal price war has been running for more than a year. Beijing has started telling companies publicly to cool the discounting and avoid disorderly competition, a polite way of saying the knife fight is bad for everyone. The Treasury Department in the US calls it a threat to global clean tech builders. The EU calls it subsidized injury to its young EV industry. The big risk is obvious. If China's domestic buyers can't absorb output, cheap exports flood the world until tariffs dam the flow and the pressure moves somewhere else. Automation doesn't fix that. It just makes it easier to keep the lines running faster than demand. Does automation actually give China a cost edge beyond wages? Yes. And not just by replacing people. Weld shops and paint shops love robots because they're consistent. Consistent means less rework and higher yield. In battery lines, where dust is the enemy and tolerances are tiny, lights out isn't about saving on lamps. It's about a stable environment where every pouch cell or blade comes out within microns of spec. The more you can compress that variability, the cheaper your warranty risk and the faster your ramp. Tesla demonstrated this in Shanghai by pushing automation higher every quarter. Chinese peers simply did it across more brands, more lines, and with tighter integration to domestic suppliers. When your battery vendor, inverter vendor, and stamping contractor are all next door and also automated, your tack times drop and your BOM costs shrink. That's what scares rivals, not just cheap labor, but a high throughput, high yield ecosystem. Let's put names to the scoreboard. BYD is building out European capacity in Hungary and exploring Turkey. It wants to double overseas sales this year and sell most of its European cars from within the bloc to dodge tariffs. Zeekr passed the 500,000 cumulative production mark and is still expanding its European footprint despite the tariff headwind. Meanwhile, Tesla remains the benchmark for sheer output from a single site. Shanghai remains one of the highest throughput auto plants on Earth. But even Tesla has dialed production up and down in China this year as the price war and the broader EV slowdown bit. If the market turns in 2026 to 2027, expect the fastest to retool, most automated plants, the dark factory style, to be the first ones that snap back to volume without hiring sprees. There's a cultural piece that matters too. Western plants operate under tighter safety codes, strong unions, and slower permitting cycles. Features, not bugs, if you care about worker protections. China's system prioritizes speed. Local officials compete to land the next lighthouse facility. Environmental and labor approvals move fast, and digital surveillance on the factory floor makes time and motion a science. That's how you get humanoid robots piloted at Zeekr or self-adapting weld shops hitting crazy uptime numbers. It's not that those ideas couldn't happen in Europe or the US, it's that they currently happen faster in China, backed by policy that rewards output above all. Whether that's a boast or a warning depends on where you sit. Now, the uncomfortable bit, quality and cyber risk. The more you automate, the more your factory looks like a data center with cars at the end. That raises different failure modes, software bugs that halt lines, ransomware that snarls operations, subtle process drifts you only catch with algorithmic monitoring. China's playbook includes overlapping redundancies, parallel lines, supplier clusters that can swap in, but a dark factory is still brittle in its own ways. On the flip side, quality can actually improve faster in a robotic plant because you can change a parameter once and propagate it instantly, instead of retraining 3 shifts and hoping it sticks. Expect a learning curve where early export models show sporadic hiccups while later generations feel eerily polished for the price. That arc is already visible in reviews of Chinese EVs landing in Europe. What does any of this mean if you're Ford, GM, VW, or Renault staring at the next product cycle? 2 choices: tariff your way to time or automate your way to parity. The EU and US have clearly chosen door 1 for now. Door 2 requires uncomfortable capital spending and ruthless supplier integration, plus political help on energy prices, permitting, and training. The International Federation of Robotics shows Europe and the US still behind Asia on new robot deployments. Catching up isn't free. Meanwhile, China is not only building more robots, but exporting the result. If Western automakers want to stay relevant in segments under 30,000 euros or $30,000, they'll need factories that look less like 2015 2015 and more like 2025. Battery lines that run like chip fabs, body shops that never sleep, and final assembly that uses humans for finesse, not repetition. Let's zoom out beyond cars. Lights out is spreading into electronics assembly, logistics, even textiles, wherever vision systems and cobots can beat human speed without wrecking quality. Pharmaceutical fill and finish already runs in near-dark clean rooms. Battery plants are trending that way by necessity. If the cost curves keep moving, you'll see more sectors tip from robots help to robots run. That's great for uptime and margins, it's brutal for the old jobs map. The honest conversation is not whether we can stop automation, we can't, but how we cushion and retrain and whether we insist the savings show up in prices and domestic reinvestment, not just in earnings calls. Here's my read. China's dark factory push is real and impressive. It's also colliding with a wall of tariffs and a domestic overcapacity problem that pure efficiency can't solve. In the near term, automation plus policy equals an export machine Europe is scrambling to contain and the US is trying to block. In the long term, some of these plants will be global templates the rest of the world copies, and some will be cautionary tales parked at half utilization because finance ministries and foreign buyers blinked. The knife-edge question is whether the tech stack that makes these factories hum, robots, vision, battery lines, can be matched in other countries fast enough to keep competition fair. So where do we land? Technological marvel, yes. Sustainable advantage, maybe. If China matches its robot armies with healthier pricing, steady demand, and cleaner trade politics, those lights-out plants will power the next decade of affordable EVs. If not, they risk becoming symbols of a glut the world won't absorb. Will China's dark factories power the future of cars or collapse under their own success? I'm leaning toward power, with periodic bruises from policy and demand shocks, but I want to know what you think. All the sources I used to make this video are linked below in the description. And if you'd like to see a video on how mushrooms could replace plastic, I also linked it down below. Thanks for watching.